For those of you who are joining us for the first time this evening, let me answer a few important questions for you. What is the Conference of Presidents? The Conference of Presidents is an umbrella organization that represents 52 of the largest and most influential Italian-American organizations in our country. What is the conference's mission? The conference has an overriding mission to create a spirit of national unity among Italian Americans throughout our country. Why is our mission important? Because if we want to preserve and pass on our heritage, our history, our culture, and our values to our younger generations, we need to begin speaking with a unified voice at the national level so we can play a meaningful role in influencing our country's ever-evolving culture. How can you and your organization participate in our mission to unify Italian Americans? First, we need to be able to communicate with each of you. And in order for that to happen, we need to have your email addresses. So we ask that you go to our registration website, ItalianAmericaOnline.com, and register yourself, your organizations, and your members. Next, we need to create strong bonds between ourselves and our respective organizations. Mutual support of each other's missions and activities will help us create that bond. And lastly, you can play a meaningful role in our ongoing agenda by participating in one of the 6 national committees we've established to find innovative solutions to 6 of the most important issues confronting our community today. Those issues and their goals are as follows. First, how do we go about reconnecting with our youth? Second, how do we coordinate and increase our charitable activities? Third, how do we go about teaching the Italian language to more students in our country? Fourth, how do we coordinate the efforts of our museums and cultural institutions to most effectively tell our story so we can keep our story alive for future generations? Fifth, how do we formulate a national public policy for the Italian American community? And sixth, how do we go about correcting the false narrative about Christopher Columbus and educate all Americans, not only about the important role Columbus played in allowing Italians to gain acceptance in our country, but about his critical role in uniting the world. We have a great program planned for this evening. I'm going to begin the program with a greeting from a very special guest. We're honored to have with us this evening the Minority Whip of the U.S. House of Representatives, Congressman Steve Scalise. 2 of our most important Italian-American leaders from Louisiana, Frank Maselli and Charles Marsala, were both very helpful in securing the Congressman's appearance this evening. Charles has done a terrific 1-hour interview with the Congressman on YouTube that we recommend that you all take the time to watch. I'll now ask Frank Maselli, the #1 Italian-American in Nolens, by the way, he taught me that proper pronunciation, to introduce Congressman Scalise. Frank?
Okay. Thank you, Basil, and good evening to everyone. I'm going to tell you a little about Steve Scalise, which many of you already know. But Steve has had an exemplary career from state representative for Louisiana to U.S. Congressman to the House Minority Whip. Through hard work and a high character, Steve has become a great leader. As most of you know, Steve was a victim of a terrible crime several years ago, but has proven his strength and resilience after numerous surgeries and procedures in making a full recovery. I am particularly proud of Steve, as we have been friends for many years, and also our families go back 100 years. With all that said, I'd like to introduce Congressman Steve Scalise.
I spoke to the Congressman's staff earlier this evening. They confirmed that Steve would be in attendance with us. I'm just assuming there may be some minor delay or technical difficulties, but hopefully Steve will be on board and participating with us within a minute or so. I'm assuming the Congressman will be with us shortly, but perhaps until he's able to join us, let's proceed with another matter of interest. October is Italian Heritage Month, and we had asked you to email us and tell us how your community or organization celebrates Italian Heritage Month. At this point, we're going to ask Mariana Gatto, the director and curator of the Italian American Museum of Los Angeles, to share some of the responses we received with us. Mariana?
Hello and good evening, everyone. As Basil mentioned, tomorrow, October 1st, marks the official beginning of Italian Heritage Month. Each October, Americans of Italian descent and their allies come together in celebration of the rich histories and ongoing contributions of Italian Americans to the United States, and to reflect on their families' heritage, traditions, and values. Italian Heritage Month was first celebrated in 1989 when it was proclaimed by President George H.W. Bush and the United States Congress to recognize and honor the achievements of Italian Americans and their descendants in the United States. Since then, many states and municipalities have followed suit. The month of October was chosen to coincide with Columbus Day, an occasion when we reflect on how the iconic navigator became a symbol of our ancestors, or excuse me, a symbol our ancestors rallied around to fight crushing discrimination, bigotry, to insert Italian Americans in the nation's founding narrative, and to fuel assimilation. We asked communities nationwide to provide events happening in their local communities, and here are a few highlights. The Italian American Alliance announces a wreath-laying and commemorative ceremony at Columbus Park in Boston, Massachusetts on Columbus Day, Monday, October 11th. The ceremony will include the distribution of educational materials, Italian music, and speakers, and takes place from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. New York, of course, will be presenting its iconic parade. San Francisco will present a series of events, including an outdoor festival and the traditional blessing of the fishing fleet. And Chicago has a number of programs throughout the month. Colorado, specifically the southern city of Pueblo, will be hosting a gathering at the state's oldest and only remaining Columbus monument. Despite the pandemic's lingering shadow, we know there are scores of events that are taking place across the country in honor of Italian Heritage Month, both virtually and in person. And whether you're joining us tonight from West Virginia or the state of Washington, we hope you'll share how your locality is celebrating this important holiday. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mariana. By the way, those of you that are on the West Coast or the rest of you who may visit Los Angeles at one time or another are in for a real treat if you have the opportunity to visit the Italian American Museum in Los Angeles. Mariana does an exceptional job there. I'll check one more time before we proceed. Is anybody from Congressman Scalise's staff with us yet? Okay, then we'll continue to proceed with our agenda, and hopefully Steve will be joining us shortly. Let's get to the real issue at hand, the ongoing battle we have with radical reformists who want to rewrite our country's history to have it conform to their own social and political misguided agendas by using distorted facts, misinterpreted translations, and in some cases outright lies to attempt to vilify Columbus and his contributions to American history. And in the process of doing so, they have absolutely no qualms about erasing the history of Italian Americans. Sadly, they've convinced many people in our country to believe their false narrative, in part because we've not spoken out. We often hear the question, why is Columbus so important to you? Why don't you just pick another prominent Italian to celebrate? Just 2 years ago, nobody in our country knew that the largest mass lynching in America took place when a mob of over 5,000 people beat, shot, and lynched 11 Italian immigrants in New Orleans. The New York Times and several other major newspapers throughout our country wrote editorials applauding the lynching. Teddy Roosevelt said, "It was a rather good thing." As a result, Italian immigrants were abused, harassed, and subjected to violence throughout our country. Did you know that there were 50 other lynchings of Italians within a 30-year period thereafter? We were the second most lynched group in our country after African Americans. Do you think you'll find anything written about that in American history books or in our children's school books? You won't find a single word. President Harrison's decision to declare a national holiday celebrating Columbus in 1892 in order to atone for the lynchings of the prior year gave Italian immigrants the opportunity to gain some dignity and some self-respect for themselves in a country that at that time despised them. The immigrants began celebrating Columbus by holding parades and raising money from their meager funds to construct over 100 statues throughout our country. Statues that stood as a tribute to their pride in being American. Columbus Day became the day that symbolized our families' struggles to become accepted in our country. That struggle went on for well over 160 years. Now those revisionists and many of their followers want to tear down those statues, throw them in the harbor as they did in Boston, and rob us of the one day each year that we choose to celebrate our heritage, our contributions to America, and the sacrifices our parents and grandparents made to give us a better life. Where's the celebration of diversity and inclusiveness that the revisionists preach when it comes to our community? Why aren't we afforded the same degree of respect that's shown to every other group in our country? All of our Italian American organizations have consistently advocated that Native Americans and every other group in our country have the opportunity to celebrate their heritage, their contributions to our country in an environment of mutual respect. And that's all we ask for ourselves. So the time's come for us to speak out in a truthful and more forceful way. And in order to do so, we've developed what we've labeled the Columbus Project. About a month ago, I was able to obtain a significant grant from a 501 nonprofit organization I chair, and the money was donated to the Conference of Presidents contingent upon it being used to educate the general public about Columbus's enormous contributions to American and world history and why his legacy is so intrinsically tied to the assimilation of Italian Americans into American society. We formulated a very specific proposal for the expenditure of those funds, which was presented to and approved unanimously by all the member organizations of the Conference of Presidents. I'll now ask the chair of our Save Columbus Committee, Robert Ferrito, to explain the program in some detail. Robert?
Basil, this is Frank.
Yes, Frank.
Steve just texted me. He's calling in shortly.
Okay, very good. Robert, we'll let you begin with your presentation, and as soon as the congressman calls in, we'll interrupt you to allow the congressman an opportunity to address us. Robert Ferrito. Robert, if you're with us, you're still on mute.
Then you didn't hear my greetings. Okay, greetings, everyone, as we welcome everybody to the Conference of Presidents, this monumental effort that is being put together by the conference. In anticipation, Basil said it, anticipation of Columbus Day in October as our Italian Heritage Month as we celebrate, we had to get a message out. We wanted to reinforce the message in support of Columbus and to kick off our Italian Heritage Month by reinforcing and explaining the false narrative that is always out there being bandied about. What we did was because of that sizable donation from Basil's organization, working with the National Columbus Education Foundation and the Order of Sons and Daughters of Italy in America, we were able to collaborate and get this out. I'm sure everyone has seen the ad that was put into the newspapers. We felt that this was the best way to reach as many people as quickly as possible and to let the world know what's going on and to dispel some of the false rumors that are going out there. We were successful in getting our ad into the Washington Post and into the Wall Street Journal. We did employ the New York Times. However, the New York Times, in their continuing their MO, the modus operandi, from the day of the lynching up until today, they denied that they wanted to change the facts. They kept saying that we didn't have the facts. And at that point, they refused to print it unless we changed the facts. And, we weren't going to do that. So that's why the New York Times did not print it. And that's why we are absolutely, a letter was sent to the New York Times. You saw what was happening. I am now in the process of putting together I'm going to call it a rally protest in front of the New York Times building. Guess what day? On Columbus Day, right before the parade, with my chairman from New York State Commission for Social Justice, John Frater. We are organizing it. I'm asking any organizations that are marching in the parade to please come down and meet us an hour before at the New York Times. It's only about 4 blocks from where the parade lines up. And let's let the New York Times, let them know how displeased we are with their continual non-support of the Italian American community. So that's where we're headed on Columbus Day. In conjunction with the ad in the Journal, we sent a letter to each and every member of Congress in the House and the Senate, 585 letters. In addition to that, we sent an additional letter to the Italian caucus to ask them to reinforce their support of what we're doing to preserve the Columbus Day, the holiday, and our Italian American heritage. We sent letters to Republicans and Democrats. We isolated for the Republicans and the Democrats because the Republicans supported a resolution to preserve Columbus Day and to preserve the holiday. The Democrats, we let them know that some of them, that President Obama, President Biden, and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi are in support of preserving the holiday also. And we put in quotes by these individuals. And the Italian caucus, we want to make sure they're with us because, they're Italian. If they're sitting on that Italian caucus because of their ethnic background, then they need to support us completely. And that's where we are with the letters. The letters went out. The team effort that was with conference providing the money, National Columbus Education Foundation providing additional money and putting the ad together, working in collaboration with the Conference of Presidents and the Order of Sons and Daughters of Italy in America. We were happy to do the mailing, and the order took care of the mailing to each and every congressman in Washington. So we are proud that this happened. We have to keep the pressure up. And I think it was one of the greatest things that we have done since we've come together. Basil, is there anything else you want me to add to that?
Thank you, Robert. Good job. I have to admit, I missed a portion of the presentation because I'm on the phone with the Congressman scheduler, trying to get him patched in. As always, I'm sure it was a wonderful presentation. We are in the process of bringing the Congressman on board, and let me just double check. Steph, you still there?
Basil, he's on the phone right now. We're good. Yep.
All right, the Congressman just joined.
And Congressman, if you can make sure that you're unmuted.
There we go.
Hi, Congressman. We welcome you. Frank Maselli gave you a very warm introduction earlier, and we're so pleased that you could find the time to be with us this evening.
Well, thanks a lot. And Frank, I know Frank and I go way back. His dad was one of the great leaders to unite Italian Americans in New Orleans and in parts of the southern part of the United States. And to see that there's this movement now to have this National Italian American Summit, where I think you've got over 50 different organizations, some of the largest Italian American organizations around the country. I really appreciate what y'all are doing to continue to promote the culture of our heritage, because look, it's something that I have great pride in. My great grandparents came here from Italy, from Sicily, and I know a lot of people make that distinction. But when you look at the American fabric and what the Italians have brought to America, it's such a great culture. We have such pride in our heritage. I've got friends who are German or Irish, and they'll go, I'm half German, but I'm half Italian. My mom was an Italian, and it's something that everybody wants to be a part of our culture. But look, we all know we've got to promote our culture. We've got to defend our culture. You see, one of our great icons, Christopher Columbus. They're always going after Christopher Columbus, and trying to end Columbus Day, trying to redefine who he was. And it's this whole crazy cancel culture that you see in America. But when they go after Columbus, they're going after us. They're trying to undermine our culture, because I don't think they want communities like the Italian American community to be able to have their own pride. And look, we love America. My God, this is the greatest country in the history of the world. We came here to America seeking the American dream, and we're able to achieve it. And if you work hard, you can. But we don't want it just for ourselves. We want to share it with everybody else. But while we're sharing what's great about America, we also love celebrating what's great about our heritage. And, look at Columbus. He was a uniter. I mean, this guy opened up America. The flat earthers were the people who told Columbus that the earth was flat. And what are you doing getting on a ship and trying to go find this new world? He did it anyway. He was a lot of risk involved, and he opened up this whole continent. And look, every day I carry around this fava bean, and I think all of you know what that fava bean represents. I call it a lucky bean. I think y'all probably know it as that too. And by the way, I've used this lucky bean maybe a lot more than most, because there was a time just 4 years ago where I almost didn't make it. And and I relied on my faith. I prayed to God. I said a whole lot of prayers, and I made it through. And I've got guardian angels, and I'll tell you, I never stop appreciating the fact that my Italian heritage was passed on to me by my parents. My grandmother's lasagna recipe, she would tell you most of the ingredients, but she would never tell you all the ingredients. But my God, it was the best lasagna you could ever eat. I mean, this is just part of who we are. And we need to continue to share our culture, not just with each other, but with other people. People love our culture, and it's part of who we are. It doesn't mean we pick sides. We love our country, which is America, but we also love our heritage. And so what y'all are doing to keep promoting it, when I'm in Congress, I'm sure a lot of people look, especially in days like now where there's a lot of really big divides in our country, we have an Italian American caucus in Congress, and it's bipartisan. We get a dinner every now and then. We go to a good Italian restaurant in DC, and it's Republicans and Democrats who have Italian American heritage, and we celebrate it. We get to know each other personally. You know, we can fight about our politics and we have differences. All of us have differences in what we believe in, but we all come together and celebrate that heritage with other members of Congress from both parties from all around the country who have that great Italian American heritage. So I just love that y'all are continuing that tradition, not just in your own states, but bringing all of the different organizations together and having a true national Italian American heritage summit that we can celebrate. So, you know, Frank Maselli, my dear friend, thank you for all of you who are part of this organization. Anything I can ever do to help you promote our great culture and defend this great heritage that we have, never hesitate to reach out and call on me.
Congressman, thank you very, very much for your time this evening and for your very appropriate remarks. We appreciate your leadership and all that you do for the Italian American community in Washington, D.C. We look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you.
Well, thanks a lot. God bless y'all.
At this point, we will we'll continue with our committee report updates. We will now hear from our Reconnect with our Youth Committee. That committee is co-chaired by Stephanie Longo and John Viola. Stephanie is an Italian-American historian, author, award-winning journalist. She also serves as an associate producer of the Italian-American podcast. John is the producer and host of the hugely popular Italian-American podcast, and he also serves as the executive director of the National Columbus Education Foundation. He's also the former president of the National Italian-American Foundation. So we'll turn the floor over to Stephanie and John at this point.
Okay, hello again, everybody. The Reconnecting with Our Youth Committee has been at work with scheduling and planning subcommittee meetings throughout the summer. John Viola and I have identified our subcommittee chairs as follows. Youth Outreach and Professional Networking is Victoria Passarella. Academic and Campus Outreach is Vicky Carabini. Italian American Content Sharing and Social Media is Max Goli. Genealogy, Heritage, and Heritage Travel co-chairs are Christopher Falone and Enzo Paglia, and Event Outreach is Frank DiPiero. To date, our Content Sharing and Social Media Subcommittee met on September 15th and has identified the following questions as areas of further discussion. First, what are the barriers keeping young people from becoming more involved in the Italian American community and the issues it faces? These issues include attracting and entertaining young Italian Americans at events, focusing on social media opportunities, bringing awareness of both the struggles and accomplishments of our community, and helping younger generations get in touch with their roots. The other question is, what are the biggest misrepresentations of Italian American culture that our community faces? These representations include the stereotypes that we all have possibly encountered at one point, including, is your family in the mafia? And why the general public gets gratification from embracing the mafia stereotype. The committee plans on discussing ways to combat these stereotypes via increased engagement on social media. Our Academic and Campus Outreach Committee is also working on approaching professors and heads of university language departments, as well as high schools with Italian programs via a letter. Universities that have been contacted to date include Cal State Long Beach, Chapman, USC, Scripps, San Diego University, San Diego State, Pepperdine, Fresno State, Indiana State, Florida State, Ole Miss, University of Dallas, Fondazione Italia, Gonzaga University, William and Mary, Fairfield, and the Clorinda Donato Center for Global Romance Languages and Translation Studies. Finally, our Youth Outreach and Professional Networking Committee is working on a SWOT analysis of the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of Italian American outreach and professional development programs. then using that to make recommendations for what could be done to improve them from the perspective of getting Gen Z and millennial populations involved, such as 40 under 40 honorees. Our other subcommittees are currently working behind the scenes, reaching out to their representative contacts and getting them engaged so they can host subcommittee meetings in the near future. If anyone is interested in getting involved, please reach out to me at slongo@italianpower.com, and I will make sure that you're a part of our contact list. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to John Viola.
Thanks, Stephanie. I can add very little to Stephanie's incredible hard work. She really is the heart and soul in chairing this subcommittee. I will say we have discussed opportunities around some investment in youth outreach, some of the things that we think could be done with reasonable amounts of donations from some of the larger organizations to speed up the process of youth outreach and identifying where the network of young and active Italian Americans is. As Stephanie mentioned, we are discussing the idea of a 40 under 40, not necessarily in terms of accomplishments in the wider world, but in terms of activism in the Italian American community, highlighting those 40 young people, putting them together, creating a group for them to interact. We've also talked about funding some grants to be administered by local Italian American groups to encourage participation between local Italian American groups and college campus groups in their area. So we can provide some small grants for one-time events and things like that to bring these young people off of the campus and into the community groups that they may not even know exist there, and vice versa. So we've got work going on all the subcommittees, but also then from a little bit of a higher altitude perspective on how we can invest in these initiatives. So as Stephanie points out, if anyone's interested in participating with us, please don't hesitate to reach out. The more, the merrier. So thank you guys all.
Thank you, John and Stephanie. Next, we will hear from the chair of the Italian Language Committee. The chair is Dr. Berardo Paradiso. Berardo is the president of the Italian American Committee on Education. In that capacity, he oversees the largest Italian American language studies program in the United States. He's a highly successful businessman, and he's also served as the past president of the Italy America Chamber of Commerce. Berardo has put together an exceptionally well-crafted brochure for us that we are currently in the process of distributing to all of those individuals and organizations that would like copies of the brochures to distribute in their respective communities and to their school boards in order to encourage students, parents, and teachers to adopt an Italian studies program. Those brochures are available free of charge through the Conference of Presidents website, and we will provide as many as 200 of them to each individual or organization that requests some. Berardo, would you bring us up to speed on what's going on with respect to Italian studies programs in our country? Berardo, you need to unmute yourself.
Good evening to everybody. Thank you, Basil. The Italian Language Committee has made some progress since our last June meeting. And as you said, the brochure was printed and is available. So I encourage everybody to get the brochure and to distribute the brochure during your events, can be meetings or dinners, because it is the only way you can promote and you make aware people that Italian language is necessary to preserve our culture and our heritage. As you well know, there is a shortage of Italian teachers in the United States. And I address the problem with the embassy in Washington, and some progress have been made in that sector. I was able, with the help of the Italian consulate in New York and the embassy in New York, and in particular with Domenico Bellantono, that is in charge of the Italian program in the United States, and with the director of the Italian program in Washington, Maria Fosco, they had the first contact, and I think just tonight, they have the first meeting with the undersecretary of the instruction. And they're asking the undersecretary, and I think she is very much in favor to grant a special visa to Italian-born teachers that have been formed in Italy, and they have graduated from Italian university, and that they have a certificate of teaching in Italy to be able to teach Italian language in United States. Naturally, this process involved some criteria and some contract of understanding between the embassy, the Italian Minister of Foreign Affairs, and instruction, but has been already done in other states and for other languages. So we see that progress can be made in the near future, and we will have some teachers coming from Italy being able to teach in public American schools, and will help us to promote the Italian language and culture in a much faster way. Another issue that I am working, and I am in contact with the College Board, is about promoting the AP Italian language and culture program. As you know, an exam was taken in May 2021, and the College Board generally released the results of this exam by the end of August. So I called the College Board. They have a new person in charge about the Italian program. It's Stephen Johnson. And he very much told me that they are a little bit late, but they should have the results by the middle of October. So as soon as I have the results by state, I will communicate and we will put on our website. It looked like to some teachers that they're involved with the AP exam program, that the numbers, they are quite steady. There's been a little bit of shortage of kids taking the exam, but that was for every single other language. So we are in good shape in that area. We are also working, and I am working very actively in doing seminars for Italian teachers. We made what they call a contract with an Italian company based in Milan, is a Studio Arcobaleno, and they specialize in training teachers, teaching Italian in the United States. And we have 7 different seminars. The first one was today at 3 o'clock. That's the reason I am dressed up. And we had more than 60 teachers, and they were very, very happy about the way we are training them. So this program, these teaching programs and training are free, and whoever knows teachers of Italian, they want to participate, we welcome them to come. I will furnish you all the information so you can go to our website and you find the date of the future seminar. Thank you very much. This is my report.
Thank you, Berardo. Very good report. As all of you are aware, we have a brand new ambassador to the United States from Italy. She just assumed her position recently. Her name is Mariangela Zappia, and I have spoken with her office, and she has graciously agreed to meet with me this coming week in an effort to establish a stronger bond between the Italian American community and the Italian government. And I'm sure many of you believe that that is something that we need to work at. We need to be there to help the Italian government when they need our help, and they need to be there to help us when we need their help. A great example of that was just this past June, when the Italian Parliament passed a motion near unanimously supporting our position on Columbus Day and forwarded a copy of that resolution to the President of the United States. So there are many ways in which we can work more closely with the Italian government and our ancestors in Italy in order to help promote their interests and their causes while they help us in promoting our interests and our causes. We'll next proceed with the committee, the Museum and Cultural Institution Committee that's chaired by Dr. Joe Scelsa. Joe's the founder and president of the Italian American Museum in Manhattan. He is a former director of the Italian American Institute at City University of New York. He is the individual that initiated and won in 1999 a civil rights lawsuit on behalf of the Italian American community that he filed against CUNY. That lawsuit stands, the ruling in that suit stands as precedent today, and it's something that we rely on in our current legal endeavors relating to the Columbus issue nationally. So at this point, I want to welcome Dr. Scelsa and ask him to provide us with a report for the Museum and Cultural Institution Committee. Joe?
Basil, good evening. Can you hear me, Basil?
Yes, we can, Joe.
Yes. Okay. First of all, I want to thank you for that wonderful introduction. It was too kind. But I want to personally thank you for all that you're doing and raising us to this bar that we are at this point and bringing us all together. I've been a member of the Conference of Presidents before it was the Conference of Presidents for over 30 years. And, you know, it's just amazing what you've accomplished in such a short time. So I want to really congratulate you and acknowledge what you've done. So thank you. The museum, you know, you're more than welcome. The Museum and Cultural Affairs Committee, our Cultural Institute Committee, has been meeting several times since its inception, and we've accomplished a few things in that time. But first, let me also mention the fact that I have 3 excellent co-chairs. And those co-chairs are Frank Maselli, who you've heard from before, from New Orleans. His father and I were very good friends, and Frank is a very good friend. And when you ask Frank to do something, he gets it done, which I'll explain in a minute. Mariana Gatto, which is, you know, a treasure in our community. What she's done in LA is amazing. It's an example for all of us. As a matter of fact, at the last meeting that we had of the Cultural Institutes and Museums Committee, Mariana gave a presentation, which I'm going to be doing other presentations, but her presentation is the benchmark for everybody to follow so that people will get an idea of what is possible. And last but not least, of course, a former student of mine who is now the chairwoman of Casa Belvedere on Staten Island, the Cultural Institute, Gina Biancardi, who has taken that institution and really made it a wonderful place for people to come to and learn about their culture and heritage. This is just a these 3 remarkable people that I'm so blessed to have as co-chairs. So I want to thank them for doing what they do. Frank took on the job when it was recommended to us to develop a way of uniformly coordinating with everybody and letting everyone know about Columbus. Very similar to what you've done with the newspapers and put out the sign. We have a poster that's been created, and you can all go and see it if you'd like, and you can order it as well, which is 7 feet tall, and it really debunks the negative things that have been said about Columbus in a positive way. So that's something that is very important that we not only speak with one voice, but we have one image. And although you can put your own organization on it, there's a place for it. The message will be uniform throughout the country. If you go to a school board presentation, or you go to a community board, or you go to a public hearing, it's something that you could show, put up, and people will see and get the message over and over again. It's important. Repetition is important. Those of you who have any experience with advertising know how important that is. Mariana, of course, has been, as I said before, has given a wonderful presentation on her museum, and she's done it in several places. And I think it inspires other people as well to go on and to do great things. Some of you might know and are interested as well. Our museum, the Italian American Museum in New York City on Mulberry Street, is under redevelopment. Thanks to COVID, it's taking longer than I expected, but it should be open by next year. We've finished the walls and we finished the outside, and we're now starting to work on the entrance facade, and hopefully we'll get into the interior before too much longer. So that hopefully will be ready for next year. Bricks and mortar are important, but really it's the heart and soul of what we do that counts. And nobody who also has bricks and mortar, who I might add through our own personal funds, did it. What a beautiful old mansion in Staten Island, and converted it into Casa Belvedere, which is now a cultural hub for the whole borough of Manhattan, of Staten Island, which has the largest Italian American population of the 5 boroughs in New York City, I might add. So it's an absolutely ideal place for it to be. So many of our people don't know our heritage, and they don't know the whole story. They only know parts of it. They know snippets of it. They know what was passed down to them from their grandparents and their parents, but they really don't know the whole story of the Italian experience. These institutions, Joe Maselli and now Frank Maselli's museum in New Orleans, Mariana Gatto's in LA, and of course, Gina on Staten Island, we do that. We tell them not only the old, but the new, and we give them the experience so people can learn. So many young people come to these places. You mentioned the fact that I had been director of the Italian American Institute at the City University of New York. Well, I learned while I was there that you might get 12 people in a classroom to take Italian American studies, but when you have a museum, you can get 40,000 people to come to it, which we did when we did the exhibit at the New York Historical Society in 1999. And I realized this is the best way that we're going to reach out to the public at large and to teach them, both their own people, the whole story, and other people who want to learn about our story, about the Italian experience. So these cultural institutes and museums, absolutely essential. And since the education system, unfortunately, hasn't been doing the job that it needs to be doing, we're doing it ourselves. Now, what we've done also is we sent out a survey, and we're still collecting information on it as to where people are. But we're not in people that want to do something in their local community. And the whole purpose of it was not to say that, like, look, these 3 or 4 or 5 great institutions already exist. No, the idea is to help people to learn how to go from, being an exhibit, an exhibition, a one night stand, to going into being a more permanent mission, so that they can have the story. Every community, this is something I learned from Frank's father, Joe Maselli, and I practice it. Each one of our communities has our own story to tell. Whether you're in New York, whether you're in Ohio, whether you're in California, or you're in Texas, or wherever you are, each one of those local communities, and that's what we need to concentrate on, because collectively, we have the whole story. So yeah, there's a national story, but the local story is very important too. So we encourage local groups to get involved, to learn what we've done. There's another museum in New York, which joined our committee too, in Albany, and that they concentrate on their local history up there. So this survey helps us to get that information, and anybody who's interested, who wants to learn more about how to start a cultural institution, whether it's a museum or an institute, please join our committee and get the information. So thank you very much for this time, and I hope that I inspired somebody out there.
Thank you very much, Joe. We appreciate the the fine job that you do. We'll proceed to our last committee, which is the Charitable Activity Committee, and it's co-chaired by Dr. Frank DeFrank and Joe Shammy. Frank is the national president of Unico National, the largest Italian-American service organization in our country. And Joe is the president of the Sons of Italy Foundation, the charitable arm of the Order Sons and Daughters of Italy in America. So at this point, I will ask them to provide to us some interesting statistical information that they've acquired concerning the charitable aspects and the charitable giving of the Italian-American community. Frank, Joe?
Thank you, Basil. I think I'll start here. Just one correction. I am now the immediate past president of Unico National since we had our convention at the end of July. But just for general information purposes, the Charitable Activity Committee basically has two tasks. One is to acquire information and data as to how the Italian-American community financially contributes to American society. We know that we've contributed in many ways over the years, but we want to bring this up to date. And the second, of course, in the future, we'd like to match some requests to specific organizations. And it is an honor, a privilege, and a blessing to be here with all of you. In our data acquisition, and as we promised, this data will only be presented in aggregate. We're not here to compare one society, one organization with another. We have up to date some information, and we have about one or two major organizations which we still need to get some information from, and more than just a few of moderate-sized organizations. But I'll tell you what we have. This is, we requested information on pre-pandemic scholarship and charitable donations. Up to this date, we have, as far as charitable donations go from the Italian-American organizations, over $1.2 million yearly. As far as scholarships go, we're well over $3.6 million yearly. Scholarships to mainly Italian-Americans, but also these charitable contributions and scholarships go in part to non-Italian-Americans. So again, this is somewhat incomplete. We still have some data acquisition, but I think this is pretty impressive as to our contribution to American society. As an aside, before I turn this over to Joe, we have already been able to accidentally pair one request to a specific organization. So in the future, hopefully we can facilitate this, but what you do, what all of us do, is impressive. And I'm sure once we get further numbers, these numbers are going to grow and grow and grow. So I'm going to turn this over. I think Joe Shammy has some comments. And Joe, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, good evening. I'm, as you can see, I'm at my office at St. John's University, where we're always interested with scholarships. And in my prior career here, it was all devoted in the area of student financial aid services. So for me, that's an important element. We have great figures, as you heard them, but we know there's a lot more. We could probably conjecture that if we ever had all the data, probably we'd be well over maybe 10, 15, 20 million. But the problem is that there has been a reluctance in our community to share the data. And again, we're not going to be comparing any organization, small or large. So we may continue this effort to gather as much data as we can. The scholarship monies that we're giving right now, it is incredible. And believe it or not, it does make a tremendous difference on the numbers of people's lives that we're doing. In terms of charity, Caritas, you can never do enough. The needs out there in our population are incredible. Someone today asked me about the difference about what we are doing today vis-a-vis what took place in America at the time of what we heard through the efforts of other speakers tonight about where we've come from. And I mentioned that we know in the Sons of Italy, way back in 1905, the big concern was the mortuary fund. And that's how many of the organizations developed their little società, their little societies, where they were worried about the orphans and the widows. And they put their $5 a month, if they had that much, they put it away in the hopes that when somebody died, they'd get, whatever they get, $100, $200. Some of the organizations held on to those insurance programs, others did not. But today, we've made it with mortuary funds. And right now, our big concern is helping. That's how we've transitioned into the year 2021. We're doing magnificent work. I think we're only touching the tip of the iceberg. We really don't know what we're all doing. Perhaps an evolution of this, what we would like to do maybe in the future, is kind of identify all the different charities by name that we're supporting. And that would be an incredible laundry list of, whether it be Cooley's anemia, which obviously does affect our own people with thalassemia, or it could be the Alzheimer's Foundation or Association, or it could be autism, whatever the major kinds of concerns are for adults and young children. So I think that this is a very important effort. And all I think Frank and I can ask of you, headed by Basil, who has asked you this before, is to please lend your cooperation in providing us the information. And it's only going to be used in a very dynamic way, because you can imagine when we're with Congress people, such as Congressman Scalise, how impressed he would be to learn that we are doing that kind of effort in these United States. So that's the rationale. That's the reason why we're gathering this data. It's powerful data. And as you know, data is power. We can say we're a generous people, but now we're starting to document what we're doing in a given year. So I would ask your continued cooperation. I think it's a very exciting endeavor. And I think when we start meeting with the congressional people and present this to them, I think they're going to be very, very much impressed.
Very good. Thank you, Joe. Frank and Joe, good job. I have a couple of important individuals that I want to introduce at this point. I believe George Bocchetto is with us this evening. If he's still with us, I want to explain the exceptional role and the exceptional sacrifice that he's making on behalf of the Italian American community. George is a brilliant attorney out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He has stood up and filed 4 separate lawsuits on behalf of the Italian American community in Philadelphia, and 1 on behalf of the Italian American community in Pittsburgh. He's already won 2 of those lawsuits on our behalf in Philadelphia, and we have the major federal lawsuit still pending that alleges civil rights violations on the civil rights violations against the Italian American community. If we're successful in that lawsuit, that will have ripple effects throughout the country. So we're anxiously waiting to see how that lawsuit plays out. George has undertaken all of these lawsuits for a very nominal amount of compensation. He's putting a tremendous amount of his time, his energy, his talents, and his law firm's resources into this on behalf of our community without adequate compensation. So this fellow is a real hero in our community. I know he's going to be honored in Philadelphia, I believe, next week. George, if you're still with us, would you come online and just say hello to everybody and let us know what's happening in the legal world?
Basil, thank you for that wonderful introduction. I need to say that this is an incredible organization that Basil has put together. And I could not be more honored to be your spokesperson, your representative, your lawyer fighting these cases. I regard myself as, the first line Marines that get sent in to do the trench warfare and the battle that needs to be done to protect our heritage and to protect our monuments and statutes and traditions. And it's only because Basil has empowered me to do it. And I will say this too. Basil has also been about as generous as you could possibly ask a person to be with financial support and backing and that type of thing. So I am so proud that we have won 2 of our 2 cases. We have 2 more out there. I'm confident we're going to win. I think once we win those cases, we're going to be able to set a precedent nationwide, and we are going to show and fight and defend our heritage nationwide. And no one's going to take that from us. And no one's going to be able to disrespect us. We, as an Italian-American organization, and I cannot tell you how much Basil has promoted this, we respect every other ethnicity. We want the indigenous people to have their holiday. We want the people of St. Patrick's Day to have their holiday. But we too, as Italian-Americans, deserve our holiday. And this organization that Basil has put together, and the support and the efforts and the letters to the editor and the pressure politically and the financial support that's being garnered are absolutely incredibly important to what we're doing. And you have my word, I will continue to fight. As long as I have Basil behind me, we're going to win.
Thank you very much, George. It's an honor to work with you and be associated with you. Thank you for all that you do for our community. There's one other guest that I'd like to acknowledge this evening. The largest Italian-American organization in the country by membership is the Order Italian Sons and Daughters of Italy in America, OSIA. They recently elected a new national president. Their Social Justice Commission, of course, is headed by Robert Ferrito, who does an outstanding job for the Italian-American community nationally. And their foundation is headed by Joe Shammy, who does an exceptional job as well. But their national organization has a new president, Robert Bianchi. Robert is a highly respected former prosecutor in New Jersey, and he now heads a major law firm in New Jersey as well. The interesting aspect of this is that his father, Angelo, actually was a former president of the Social Justice Commission of OSIA. So that's an interesting tie there. So if Robert is still with us, Robert, I'd like you to say hello so that everybody around the country will get to know who you are. If you're with us, unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you, Basil. I greatly appreciate it. It's a great honor to be here with all you folks, and certainly a great honor to be the national president for the Order of Sons and Daughters of Italy in America. I look forward to working with any group, this group in particular, that are looking to fight for common issues or to bring our groups, all of our groups together. I've listened for many years. Basil noted about my father being the president for Commission for Social Justice. So since I was at his hip, and up until this point in time, when I'm a little bit more paunchy and balding, I've been listening to the same conversations for a long time. And I've been listening to a number of people that have, obviously understand Italian Americans are not taken seriously in this country. I think that is a significant problem with the political establishment who, yes, we've met the congressional side of things on both Republican and Democratic side. We get a lot of lip service, but not a lot of action. But what I have seen since COVID is, I know from my organization's standpoint, Order of Sons and Daughters of Italy in America has made significant progress in terms of our outreach and social media outreach. I'm in the media field as well. So we have a lot of people. Mary Kovach, I know I saw on the Zoom is around here, and a lot of real good talent in our organization. And with the use of these new platforms and technology, and with the dedication and spirit, I think there's going to be a lot more than just words. I think that we really have an opportunity at this point in time to put action behind those words. So Basil, thank you for the introduction. And again, I'm very honored to be here with you folks and look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you very much, Robert. I think we've had a really interesting and productive meeting this evening. October's Italian Heritage Month, so let's do everything we can to promote our heritage in the coming month. Let's all proudly support our Columbus Day parades. Let's all continue to stand proudly with our hands joined together and our heads held high as we honor our parents, the sacrifices that our parents and grandparents have made for us. Let's continue to build momentum in order to succeed in all of the respective endeavors that we've undertaken in this organization. Until we each join each other again at our next Italian American Summit meeting, may God bless you all, and thank you for participating this evening.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Basil.